Okay, so while learning about the relations of a thoracic aorta, it's important to note that it has certain main branches that are mostly related to the organs that are present in the vicinity. So we know for the fact that the thoracic aorta is found in the in the posterior mediastinum. So posteriorly, though it's located posteriorly, most of the supply of the aorta of the thoracic aorta goes to the organs in the mediastinum, and another major supply is to the vertebra and the ribs. So, starting with in going into a descending order, the first branch that we can see here is so let's just go in a descending order according to the organs that are in the vicinity of the aorta. So it's important not to look at the atlas at this moment and just go looking at this short description of the branches right here. Because if you go and look at the atlas, you can see that it's quite a mess of all of the arteries that anastomose and go to and fro, and they cut paths, and it becomes quite difficult to understand which artery is where, and it becomes quite difficult to visualize. So first, let us separate all of the arteries that originate from the thoracic aorta in the form of an order. So the more of the respiratory organs, most of the respiratory organs are present in the superior mediastinum. So we're going to go from the superior mediastinum going all the way towards the T12, the organ that is found near the T12. That's the diaphragm, or the phrene. So starting with the bronchial arteries, these are paired visceral branches, and they branch off laterally from the thoracic aorta. As you can see here, it's quite inner to the heart. So right here, like right behind the trachea, near the bifurcation, we have the bronchial arteries. Now moving on, we have the mediastinal arteries that are small arteries, and they supply tissues in the posterior mediastinum. We have tissues such as the fascia, we have the cervical fascia, and then we have the the retropharyngeal space and everything. So that's where the mediastinal arteries go. And then we have the esophageal arteries. So esophagus, remember when I talked about the relationships, I mentioned that esophagus is the major organ that is found in the posterior compartment of the mediastinum. So we have esophageal arteries that are unpaired. So bronchial arteries are paired, and esophageal arteries are unpaired branches arising anteriorly to supply the esophagus. Then what can we see next? The other structure that we can notice after the esophagus is the presence of the heart. The heart, and what comes before? We know for the fact that the heart is supplied by the coronary artery, but another structure needs its own supply. So that's known as the pericardium of the heart. The pericardium of the heart is supplied by the pericardial artery that arises from the thyroid. Sorry, not the thyroid, from the thoracic artery. So that's the pericardial artery. And moving on, we have the phrenic artery. So I know that these sound really less, but the phrenic artery is, now we missed a lot of structures in between too. So phrenic artery, we missed the lungs, but we know for the fact that lungs have their own pulmonary arterial supply, but then the diaphragm, which is present below here, is related with the thoracic aorta with the help of a paired structure right here. If you can see, we have the superior phrenic artery and the inferior phrenic artery that supplies the diaphragm. Now, the major branches that come off of the thoracic aorta are mostly the intercostal artery, and then we also have branches of subcostal artery. And then a vestigial artery that we have to remember, the aberrant artery that comes off of the superior part here. The aberrant artery is not, you don't really have to remember about the aberrant artery because this is the one it's vestigial, so you don't have to. So, so main arteries according to the organ. Then we have the diaphragmatic artery, which marks the end, and then of course we have the intercostal artery that are quite widespread because we know that the ribs are found from the T1 to the T12. So that's how we have intercostal arteries. Then we have a lot of branches of the intercostal arteries too, and they might be the collateral arteries, and then we have the dorsal branches of the intercostal artery. So it's quite a complex structure, as you can see here, and it's just quite important to know the major branches of the thoracic aorta at this stage.